What's going on, you guys? Someone recently asked me why I don't ever talk about buying or evaluating Amazon DSP routes in any of the previous videos I've ever released. And there are a few very good reasons why I haven't talked about it. And that is mostly because I don't think that buying Amazon routes is the right choice for the majority of people. Now, there's a few very good reasons for that. And whenever I tell you what these reasons are, it's going to help you decide whether you should buy Amazon routes, or maybe different routes, or maybe a different business, and know how to evaluate that different business even better than what you're currently doing. And so right now it's 2024 and things may change, but as of right now, I don't think that buying Amazon routes is the right move for the vast majority of people. So let's start with some of the reasons why I think that's the case. So the first problem I have is the transference of the contract. And let's just say, for example, you had a bread route or a FedEx route for that matter. You wanted to sell it, you find a buyer, they've got the money. Well, you can't actually just decide to sell it to them because they have to interview, they have to apply, they have to get approved, they have to have the business plan, and all that stuff has to come together. And then once it gets approved, then it can transfer, then you can sell your business. So in the bread and FedEx route world, pretty much there's not an issue there. Most of the time, people get approved whenever you find a buyer. However, in the Amazon world, that isn't really the case. And from a lot of the people that I've talked to, being able to get that thing to transfer is extremely difficult. There will be people that come in that want to buy the business and don't get approved, and you're essentially stuck with that business. Now, the litmus test for me on whether you have bought a job or not is essentially whether you can sell it. If you can't sell your business, you don't have an asset, you have a job. And I know a lot of times people will think about like, oh, I bought a job because I've got to work. Oh, this business takes me too long. Oh, I've just bought a job. No, you haven't. All businesses take time. They take work. The true litmus test is not whether you are working, it is whether you can sell it. And if you can't sell it, that is the definition of a job, not whether you are working, because there's lots of businesses that take a lot of hours a week to be able to run. That's not a job. You could change things around. It is a job whenever you can't sell it. So that's the first thing. And so the second problem I have is not actually any fault of the Amazon opportunity itself, but kind of things that go around that. And so, for example, I've worked with a lot of people that need help evaluating routes and try to look at Amazon routes for sale. And inevitably, when they go to look at an Amazon route, they call up the broker and the broker says, oh, whoopsie, that just sold last week. Sorry we didn't get the listing taken down, but hey, we've got a FedEx route for sale. Do you want the FedEx route? And so my question is, was that Amazon listing even legitimate to begin with? Now, granted, it might have been. It might have just been a lead generation device. We don't know what it is, but the point is, I'm a little suspect whenever I see Amazon listings pop up. Now, it's important to remember that I don't think that all the brokers are trying to just use a bait and switch tactic. I'm not saying that whatsoever. And some of the brokers out there, I think, truly believe, as well as the contractors, that this business can sell. And what they start to realize is, oh my gosh, it's not going to be able to sell. And some of the listings that are truly legitimate, the contractor's like, yeah, I want to sell my business. And he doesn't realize what a pain in the ass it's going to be. Or maybe he's just hopeful that it's actually going to be able to be approved. So it's not that brokers are out there trying to screw you, or even the contractors themselves. They might not even know that getting these things to transfer is a very big problem in a lot of cases. Certainly not all, but again, we're talking about generalities here. Third issue that I have is dealing with the evaluation process. So for example, in the FedEx or bread route world, we can look back 10 years and say, oh, look at what they've done in these contracts year after year. We can make some pretty good predictions. We can evaluate this business in a very solid way. In the Amazon world, because they haven't been doing this for 10 years, you can't really do that. And so you're buying this business based on this contract. And if that contract can change very violently, which it has in the past in terms of how many routes they're awarding you and so on and so forth, the fact that you can have so much change tells me that even if you could evaluate the business perfectly, which you can't, even if you could, that contract may change so dramatically in the next year. What are you going to get? why are we paying a multiple on this? And so granted, this stuff can happen in the FedEx world too, where FedEx changes things, and some of the contract changes in the FedEx world have been pretty dramatic. But for the most part, when you know what that contract is and you've got lots and lots of data to be able to pull from, you can make a very, very strong evaluation process out of that. Whenever the contract is basically kind of new and no one has really been doing this for 10 years, it's very difficult to evaluate. So for example, the business might truly be making $800,000 net, but if you buy it and then next year it makes $300,000, well, that's still a good business. Hell, it's making $300K. That's good. But if you paid a multiple on $800K, now you're screwed. Now you're screwed. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not about whether the business is truly making the money or not. It's about this contract changing, and it can change very unpredictably, which means that you can't appropriately evaluate it, even if you knew every single piece of information about Amazon routes that you could possibly know. It can change. Now, granted, again, this can happen in the FedEx and bread route world as well, but it doesn't seem like it's happened quite so much in those worlds as it has in the Amazon world already. We already know that Amazon can change that contract very dramatically and very quickly. They're trying to pivot and adapt and tweak and make things right. I get it, but if you're paying a multiple on that, it's not that it's a bad business to buy, it's that it is a risky as hell business to buy. Now, you may love risk. You may say, that's what I want to do. Great. But understand that it's risky. Understand that even if you knew everything about the business that there was possible to be known, it's still risky because the contract can change. So that's another very, very big issue that I have with these businesses. The next issue that I have is dealing with what has been in that contract in the past. And we have seen things where Amazon has required or greatly encouraged people to show up every single day at that terminal. Now, granted, a lot of times you have to show up for a bread route. You got to show up for your FedEx routes. But having that as a requirement is that's not so great in my opinion. Now it starts to feel like that whole job thing again, right? And again, it's not that showing up is bad, it's that it was required. Now it doesn't seem like it's required at this point, but the fact that it was there at all, ever, starts to make me a little bit paranoid on what might pop up in the next contract. You might not have that paranoia, that's fine. But if you think about all the reasons that I've laid out, the fact that it is very difficult to evaluate this business, because even if you could magically evaluate it with perfect information, it might change so dramatically that it might be a terrible idea because the business went from 800,000 to 300,000, something like that. The other thing of dealing with the fact that I don't think that a lot of listings are even legitimate, and that ties into the fact that it's very difficult to sell this business. And then finally, the fact that we've seen some crazy stuff inside of that contract in the past makes me start to feel like getting a different type of business or different set of routes altogether is probably the better choice. Now, remember, everything that I'm saying right now is in early 2024, and maybe I'll change my mind if they extend the duration of the contract. They make it easier to evaluate. They make it easy to transfer. So a lot of things can change dramatically very quickly, and then at that point, I'll probably change my mind. But as of right now, I want you to be able to hear how I think about it, and I think that that will help you start to think about other routes or even other businesses altogether. Now, is the Amazon DSP opportunity a bad opportunity? No. For someone that has started at the ground floor and basically paid practically nothing to be able to get in the 15,000 or whatever that they want now, like, that's a very different risk profile and opportunity than spending $1 million for an Amazon route business that's for sale. So looking at it in terms of starting at the ground floor is very, very different. And that might be the most incredible opportunity for someone to get in at the ground floor of Amazon, build those routes up, work with them from scratch, because then whenever they go from making 800,000 to 300,000, they're still doing pretty damn well. It's not like they can't make their loan payments anymore and now they go bankrupt because they based their valuation off of 800,000. So again, very important to emphasize, starting at the ground floor is very different than spending $1 million plus on this particular type of opportunity. And I'm going to also have a video coming out soon that's going to talk about some of the other BS listings that I find a lot of times on BizQuest or BizBuySell and how you can spot those too. So hit subscribe so you can check that out. But anyway, hopefully this helps out in terms of understanding why I don't really love the idea of buying Amazon routes. It might be right for you, but for the majority of people, I just don't think so. Anyway, hopefully this helps. Like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.